It's been brought to my attention that at the start of my videos, I always talk too long. Long. So welcome to the new 30-second intro. In my last video, I made a penis out of 4mm plywood. I thought it looked amazing once it was stuck, sanded and varnished. And the project had a load of offcuts and I didn't want to waste them. But all those offcuts were really small and tricky and hard to work with. I didn't know what I was going to do. But then an idea fell into my lap. So in this video, we're going to make some beer mats. Let's get into the build. To kick this one off, I arranged everything into different sizes and I've got no idea why. After that, got out my coaster to take some measurements, and then I just took one of the pieces of wood and chopped it so that I could make like a test piece and see how well that worked. So the test piece came together pretty easy and looked like it was going to be a fun project. So I started marking out the rest of the wood and got it chopped up to a rough size for the beer mats. Obviously there was a lot of wood, so there's going to be a lot of cutting. The first batch I was really lucky with because they were kind of flat anyway, so I just put them through the drop saw. But the second batch were all weird shapes, so I had to do these one at a time and it took so long. A lot of these pieces had really crap top layers, which was an absolute nightmare because I had to sand hundreds of tiny pieces of wood. But once this batch was sanded, I got out my PVA glue and started sticking them all together.
Constellations, they remind me that this life cannot be lost forever.
Whilst I was waiting for the first slab to dry, I just carried on cutting the offcuts into squares and pieces and things. Because these pieces were chunkier, I was able to use this easier method of sanding until one of them flew halfway across the room. We're only about halfway through gluing all the pieces together. It's boring as hell, but I've come across a problem and I thought I would tell you guys about it. What am I doing with my hands? So initially I was going to make big slabs, glue as many pieces together as possible, but gluing all those pieces together was fiddly. They slide out of place dead easy, they move up and down. So yeah, that was a pain, but we persevered, we got through that. But when I started applying pressure to the clamp, the whole thing like a concertina bowed in the middle. So every time I made one of these sections, I had to clamp it flat on the desk. Things moved. It's a complete pain. So for the next few sections, I'm going to make them smaller, so hopefully there's less of a concertina, but that does mean it's going to take more time. Another section that's broken off. I really did not expect that to happen. So yeah, testing for strength, fixing things, let's go. Every single one of them. Fuck. Whilst I was figuring out if I could save them or not, I straightened up the edges on the rest of the big pieces. Whilst the last ones are drying, I'm going to test out flattening my first coaster, but this is going to be super tricky. So I decided to make a router jig. That way I could slowly take layers off it, side after side, and then it'd be perfectly flat at the end. But once I made the router jig, I realised I wouldn't be able to clamp this thing down and it was just going to fire out and potentially kill me. I was thinking maybe I could do it on the table saw, because there's a flat edge there. I could just keep pushing it through until it was kind of flat and then flip it over. Problem there is my table saw is broke. So I think we're going to go to the penis method. That's using the angle grinder with a grinding bit, getting it as flat as possible, and then using the sander on it. Really can't see a better way of doing this. I just had a genius idea. I think I've solved the problem. Oh, that's the one! It's so flat, it's so smooth. Oh my god, that's definitely the one. Literally as I picked it up. Hopefully it's an easy repair. I realised that one broke because it was too thin, so the rest of them have to be a lot thicker. But now that I know it works, I started clamping the rest of the pieces up until they were all beer mat size. This one already feels a lot better than the other ones. Just gotta wait for everything to glue and then we'll do a time lapse of getting the rest of these done. How amazing does this end piece look? I've only got it clamped together, but with all those little bits of wood side by side like that, it looked amazing. To get that finish, I was clamping 4 mats at a time, using the router to flatten each side, and then just finishing off with a sander. Then once the edges were done, I used some 400 grit sandpaper to give the face a super smooth surface. Can't tell you how impressed I am now that they've all been squared off and sanded. Like, they look like they should be rough, but they're not. They're perfectly smooth. They're not perfectly square, and there is a few little imperfections here and there. But I've got to remember that these were all made out of scrap wood. These are made of wood that was either going in the bin or going on a fire, and now they're a thing. So I think I'm going to sand the edges maybe a tiny bit. Next we're going to seal them. I don't know what we're going to do there. Probably experiment, maybe 2 different colours. I don't know. Let's just get into it. I'm going to try this pine gloss I had lying around in the basement for the first 4 coasters. I also found this polyurethane gloss that I'm going to test out on the next 4. These glosses are a liquid and the wood is definitely going to absorb them. Once it does, it is going to go a little bit rough again, so once they dried, I gave them a going over with the 400 grit sandpaper. I repeated this process probably about 3 times. Right, okay, so for a simple project, this one has been an absolute nightmare, but I couldn't leave this alone. Look how cool it looks on the end, so I'm going to experiment. Don't know if this is going to be in the video, and I'll do it as quick as possible. Here we go. At this stage, I only had 2 full sets of coasters, and that's because these other ones were either too thin, had broken, or just weren't wide enough to be a full coaster. So I stuck all these rejected and broken pieces together to try and make one epic set of beer mats. To make this last set of beer mats, I really had to utilise every tiny little bit of scrap wood I had left. Once these ones are dried, I got my dodgy router jig out again to flatten the faces, clamped them together and routed and sanded the edges, used a clear satin to coat them, and here's how they all turned out.
With me here, you'll never be lonely. It's oh so clear, I've always been falling through a life that's upside down.
This project has been a bit nuts. I thought it was going to be super simple. We're just making squares. But it took me about a month to do in total. But by the end of it, I've got 3 sets of beer mats that I can list on my Etsy store. And you've got to remember, all 3 sets of these beer mats have come from offcuts from the penis project in the last video. So we got the first set, which is the one I coated with polyurethane, which these look super, super cool. These are very neat. They're kind of flat, and in certain lights, they've got kind of a glint to them. Don't know why that is. It's probably the polyurethane filling the gaps after I've sanded them down. Yeah, very, very cool. Very impressed with this set. We've got the one I coated in pine gloss. Now after a few coats of this, it was looking dark and really shiny and really tacky. So I did sand them back quite a lot. And now they've got this weird finish where it's like dark in some sections and light in the other, which looks amazing. I really, really like the way these turned out as well. Again, same as the previous ones. They look flat, and then in certain lights they kind of shine a bit. And then you've got these pieces where, you know, you can see the join between some of the scrap, and it really gives it some character. And then this last set, which I wasn't even planning to do, and these have ended up amazing. So sticking that block together, so you've just got the very end pieces in them. There's actually 2 different styles in this set. Got these 2 where you've got the slabs either side, and then you've just got a joining piece down the middle, which just gives it a nice bit of style in between all the pattern that's going on here. It looks so cool. Then on these 2, there's the slab in the middle that's got all the detail, and then whatever spare wood got slapped onto the side. But again, it just adds that extra bit of style that you've got these cool different effects going on in this set. They're all so cool. I kind of want to keep them, but this entire project has been about making money, so all 3 of these sets will be on my Etsy store if you want to buy them. And you've got to remember, these are scrap wood from the penis, so if you didn't want to buy the penis, you might want to buy some beer mats, some coasters. It's up to you. If you made it this far, thanks very much for watching. Hopefully it was a bit entertaining or informative or educational. I don't know, but if you've got any tips, questions or suggestions, stick them in the comments below. And there should be another video in the next week or 2, hopefully nearly finished. Anyway, see you in the next one. Peace.